Sara MacBee Show. Today, I have the privilege of introducing someone whose life is nothing short of extraordinary. Jose spent over 3 decades in leadership within the global oil and gas industry, holding a distinguished position in a Venezuelan company. But what sets Jose apart is not just his professional success, it's his ability to endure and overcome unimaginable adversity. In 2017, Jose became one of the Citgo Six, a group of executives held hostage in Venezuela, enduring 5 long years of captivity. Throughout this ordeal, Jose found strength through love and determination, secretly sending over 1,000 letters to his wife. Jose, welcome to the Sara MacBee Show.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we came across your story and we got to connect a couple of weeks ago and talk about it. But I just want to go back to, let's go through like what your life looked like before this happened. And then we will take our audience on the journey that you've been through.
Well, you said it well. I did my more than 3 decades in career in the oil and gas. I began working in Venezuela in the 80s when Venezuela was one of the wealthiest countries of Latin America. And PDVSA, that is a Venezuelan oil company, was the 5th company of oil and gas in the world. So I began working there and did my career there, in several international joint ventures. I was always assigned to international joint ventures. And at the end, I was sent here to the U.S., to the U.S. base that is Citgo Petroleum. Many people know Citgo Petroleum because they see the gas station all over the U.S., more than 6,000 gas stations. But that company belongs to Venezuela. So I did my career in that company. And finally, at the end of my career in 2017, I became the CEO of that company. And there is what happened, my story.
And then they targeted you. Is that fair
Yes.
in saying that?
Yes.
Why do you believe they targeted you?
Well, because if the people go back to the time in 2017, in here in the U.S. was the Trump administration, and the President Trump was really working very hard to throw up these guys that have become an evil guy that have made a lot of damage to Venezuela. So he began to, in that year, to impose personal and national sanctions to the country, and did also a oil ban. So the situation, because the intention was to put the maximum pressure and throw out these guys. In the middle of that situation, because the situation began to be very tense, but I was not a politician, so I never thought I could get caught in the middle of that. But it happened. We flew to a business trip, and they began to decide. This guy decided to take us as hostage and to lever us. And unfortunate situation for us, that situation lasted 5 years. We stayed there 5 years.
So how did they just came when you guys landed? Did they come and arrest you, or how did that
No.
happen?
That was a total setup because I was going to do a presentation. We were revamping a refinery in Aruba, in the Aruba Island. So I was called to make the presentation, and I flew with my 5 top executives. So we went to the ballroom, almost 1,000 people. I did the presentation. It was a wonderful presentation, and there was standing ovation. Everybody was happy, very successful project. And 5 minutes after came the guards, and they captured us there in the middle of all that thing. They wanted to do like a big show, but for some reason somebody took the situation, and long story short, they captured in the middle of the presentation.
Wow. So what was going through your mind did you have any idea that this could even happen to you? You were just completely blindsided.
Even in my worst nightmare, I never thought that something could happen like that to me. It was something that was so bizarre. Going into that situation and being accused to be American spies what was so bizarre that we never thought that coming to us. And believe me, the first thought of us was, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. And it was not a mistake. It was not a mistake. This guy had everything planned. They were planning to capture us because they wanted to leverage us. We learned that was after some time because we were captured and put in isolation, And we discovered that everything was a setup. Everything was a setup.
You are suggesting that the violence at the Capitol on January 6th was part of some operation orchestrated by FBI sources or FBI agents. The answer is no, it was not.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
It's not protest, it's insurrection.
When I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol and how many went into the Capitol, can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
You don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any.
Smoke pops, and when Epps starts to leave, he's got 4 people in front of him and 4 people behind him, and they literally get him the hell out of there.
Based on your investigation so far, do you have any evidence that the Capitol attack was organized by, quote, fake Trump protesters?
We have not seen evidence of that.
We need to go into the Capitol! I was in the front. I also orchestrated it.
Oh my gosh. You hear about these things, but you just don't ever think you're going to come across somebody. And much like you never thought that it was going to be you.
Yeah.
So once you were arrested and detained, what did that look like? Did they have charges against you? Did they just detain you? Did you have a trial?
They detained us first. They put us in a dungeon, and after some days, they did begin a sham trial. That by the way, the sham trial began like 3 years after. So we stayed 3 years like in a limbo, but we were accused to be American spies. We were accused to have committed treason. We were accused to have done corruption and embezzlement. Of course, all of that was false charge, because the thing with these countries is they take the people, Americans or another top world countries, people, Belgium, UK, Australia, whatever, and they put you false charge. They do a sham trial because the intention of them is use you as a pawn. That's the real intention.
So they had no evidence against you for these
Absolutely
alleged charges. They just took these alleged charges, held you all against your will for 3 years. Did you ever have a bond hearing or anything?
Well, I had a lawyer that I hired. The lawyer only came to bring me groceries or toothpaste, because the lawyer could not do nothing. This was a total bizarre situation. There was no rule of law. Absolutely.
I am just in shock, to be honest with you. What were the conditions like when you were held?
Oh, well, terrible. Well, terrible. The first year we were put in a dungeon in a place they call the submarine. It's a very confined vessel without no windows, no door, no fresh water, no fresh air. We were starving. There was no food. It was terrible. The first year was literally living in a hell. The first year. The second year, because the situation began to evolve, the pressure, because our family, we were 6 guys. The family went to the U.S. government. The U.S. government was on board since day one. So it really began to work hard to bring us back. And, the situation, also the press. So everything combined began to do a lot of pressure. So in the second year, they decided to put the 6 together. And that's where the press put us the name of the Citgo 6. That's how we became the Citgo 6.
And how did this take a toll on your family?
Wow, this is something terrible. I can tell you, one of the things that today, by the way, I'm very connected today with the hostage community. And when I see that things are going in the world, like in the Middle East, for example, and when I hear those stories, that touch my heart, because I know the suffering of the family. Because when you're going to a situation like this, I'm not going to say that you're not suffering, but what is your circumstance? Your family doesn't know even if you're alive. So it's hell in life where they begin to go.
I think people too often forget that it's not just the punishment of the person accused, it leaks into their family and it can
Totally.
destroy their lives, you know?
No, it like can. It does it. It destroys it. This is like, I always say, this is like putting a bomb in the middle of the family.
Yes.
Everybody is spread across. When I'm saying across, I'm talking about my wife, I'm talking about my kids, I'm talking about my grandsons. It's everybody. It's everybody. Everybody got affected. Your family puts the life like in pause. So you became a hostage, not a physical hostage. You're a mental hostage because now you are suffering. You don't know what's going on, and you had to deal with the things. It's a terrible situation.
What got you through what I would consider probably some of your darkest times of your life?
The love of my family. That kept me moving. Well, my first thought were very bad thoughts, but when I begin to think that I needed to come back to my family, that I needed really to work hard, to come back in body, soul, and spirit back to them, that kept me. That was and the faith in God.
Yes. Just to know that it doesn't matter about what happens to you. It matters how you handle that situation, and to know that the Lord was using you for something bigger than yourself. What was it like when your family finally got a hold of the government and told them what was going on? What was that journey like? Because you were still held captive for a very long time, even after they got involved.
Yeah. I knew what was going on sometime after, and of course, when I came back, I all have, are more familiar of the details. Our family, the sixth family, went to the U.S. government since day one. So the U.S. ambassador tried to visit us in Venezuela 11 times. He tried to visit us 11 times. The situation began to go so tense that the Venezuelan government, began to be very tense, the situation, and both ambassadors were recalled. The U.S. ambassador and the Venezuelan ambassador were recalled. You know that when the ambassadors are recalled, because the relations are in the bottom, okay?
Yes.
So now we are without no ambassador, no direct communication, and there's where the UN intervened. So our family was, this in day one, beginning to have meeting, as I said, was during the Trump administration, and she was received 2 times in the White House during that time, and she was having monthly meeting. And in 2019, 2 years after our situation, because this situation was not unique. This was happening at the same time with other countries. There were people in Iran, there were people in China, there were people in Russia, in Syria. There were a lot of people around the world. So that the government decided to create an office, because it was passed in the Congress called the Robert Levinson Act. Today, the act is who protect the hostages. Is in the name of a guy that disappeared in Syria, never was found his body, Robert Levinson. So that act created this office. This office is attached to the State Department. It's called the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs, SPIHA. And the guy that was appointed by Trump today is still in office because was ratified by Biden. So there has been kind of continuity. He's an awesome guy. Okay, we call him Captain America. His name is Roger Carlton. Yeah, we call him Captain America, yes. So because he has been rescuing people, all over the world. So it's amazing. I can tell you, every time I see that somebody is rescued for me, it touched my heart. And when I heard about these 6 hostages that were killed in Middle East, it also touched my heart, because, you create a bond. You were there. You know what is that? You know exactly what is that.
How can people support your American Flag Store?
Well, you can go to our website, youramericanflagstore.com. We have about 120 or so different flag designs. Every flag is as it is, or you can customize it just by calling us and saying, I like this flag and I like this done to it. Something very unique to our business. So the best way to support us is, 1, buy a flag from us at youramericanflagstore.com, and 2, call your local congressmen and senators and your state congressmen and senators and tell them that you want anti-cancel culture legislation drafted. that you've heard that there's some good stuff in Tennessee and to look into it.
Yeah, you know exactly what they're going through better than anybody because you yourself were in that situation. And I think you can see yourself being in that situation again, you know, not knowing if you were going to die, if you were going to come home. What has life looked like for you after you were able to come back home?
Well, it has been a journey because when the first time when I came back, I'm going to be having an anniversary in October, that 2 years. So I have less than 2 years that I came back. So when I came back, I stayed in a military base in San Antonio in a decompression program they do for the prisoners of war and the missing in action. I went through that process. So let's say that my first 6 months was kind of my healing process. So after I went through my healing process, I decided, okay, what I do with my life. So that's where I begin to get connected with this foundation, the work with the hostage community. And I discovered that was really helping me, and I believe that I was helping others too. So that's why I decided to convert this in a coaching program. I created a coaching program, and today I'm a leadership and resilience coach. I decided to begin to speak. Now I'm doing public speaking, and I wrote my book. So this is my book that I wrote, and it's called From Hero to Villain. That is based on my story and how I was a hero and became the worst of the villain accused to be American spy. So that has been my journey since I came back. But I can tell something, Sarah. It's not an easy journey. It's so complex that I'm thinking that my second book is going to talk about how's your journey when you come back. Because people think that this is the end of a love story. No, it's the beginning of a new journey, and you know that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just reminds me that I try to drive home to people in the January 6th community that when you are released or President Trump gives these individuals pardons, it doesn't mean that the story's over. In fact, it's probably going to be harder than what anybody has initially gone through because it's uncharted waters. So like you're talking about going through a decompression program, which prisoners of war go through. I think individuals that have been January 6th defendants are also going to have to go through something very similar. Because they were ripped away from their families. They were hostages in their own country and very different from you. But there were times I didn't know if my husband was safe, if he was alive, for other people as well, because you would go days and weeks without knowing where they were, even their attorneys. And much like you were talking about, your attorney couldn't do anything, very similar to the January 6th defendants, where they couldn't do anything. You're fighting a system, a broken, corrupt system. Yeah. And so you're fighting it from another side. And so what
the circumstances are the same.
Yes.
Even inside your country, the circumstances are the same.
No, they are. And talking about it leaking out to the families, I have seen the destruction of what's happened to the January 6 families because of the unknown. It's not like you commit a crime and then you're charged and you go through this speedy trial process and you know what it looks like, how much time you get, how you can work it off your sentence, that sort of thing. That's not what it was like for you. It's not what it's like for these January 6 defendants. It's literally gone back to your faith. And that you might only be able to see 3 feet in front of you, but that's where you have to continue to go and just to trust the process that the Lord is going to pull you and deliver you from this situation, much like you have. And instead of using your situation and becoming a victim of your situation, you become a victor. And now you're speaking out on behalf of other individuals because you and your family know what it's like to be on the other side.
Correct. And let me tell you something more else. Now that I'm connected to my church, now I found a purpose. I found a meaning. So now I feel joyful that I can show my testimony to help others. So it becomes something like magical. It's like a spiritual, So yeah. This is a journey. And when your husband go out, I would love to talk with him because this is something that really, if you use it for the good, it's going to be a journey that is going to help others.
No, it absolutely is, right? We don't live our lives for ourselves. We live our lives for other people. And to be able to walk this journey with them, because, for the majority of January 6 defendants, including myself, we were on a lonely island for a very long period of time. Much like you talk about with the press, that you went from being a CEO, a father, a well-respected citizen in your community to becoming a villain because of what the media did and said about you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, this is very important because one of the things that the media sometimes doesn't understand these cases. The hostage situation is maybe different than the January 6th, but it's kind of similar because the press, when they were talking about our case, they didn't understood if they made a question. They didn't know if we committed the crimes or not. Our family was so angry, so mad, that after so much time, they understood what was going on. And of course, at the end, they knew that it was totally sham. But at the beginning, if you see the first news, they were like kind of guessing if we were victims or really we are. So the press doesn't know how to treat this case. Today, I can tell you maybe there are some journalists that are more familiar with this situation, are more kind of aware of the situation, but this is something that's still a lot of room to improve. The press only talks about this case when something is going on. This is the other thing. Nobody's talking about this. And it's the same case of your family. Nobody talks about them. So you go through the situation alone.
Yes. Yes. And you're trying to get your story out, much like you are now, where you're trying to correct the record and say, no, look at the evidence for yourself. Don't just assume, because we are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. And you have alleged charges against you, and it's supposed to be the burden of the opposer to
Correct.
prove the evidence against you, but they don't have to do that because we are just living in kangaroo court times. You said it was a sham trial, and I absolutely believe that. It's just I say all the time, we live in interesting times, and I was reminded that a Chinese proverb says that when you live in interesting times, it's a curse. You're supposed to live in times of peace, and that's the case. I mean, you look at all aspects of what's happening in America and what's happening in other countries right now. It's unprecedented times. Would you agree with that?
Of course. Totally agree with that.
So how can people support you? I know that you said that you have your book, and I believe it's on Amazon. People can go buy it and learn more about you, your story, your family. How can people go learn more, support you in what you are doing through the nonprofit that you spoke about?
Yeah, I have a webpage. It's very easy, joseconnect.com. When you go to my webpage, you will find everything related to me because I have there my coaching program. I have my speaking. I speak this, while we're talking here, I try to raise awareness about this situation. I have a speech called From Captivity to Freedom, where I talk about this. So everybody that wants to hear me, have an event, whatever, I have there. I have videos of my speaking there. And I have links to my book that also you can go directly to Amazon if you want to buy it. I have a newsletter that I write where I talk. So I try to be very active in the social media because for me this became kind of a mission, And I see you doing the same, So I love that.
Yeah, we can either bend a knee or we can take a stand. And I think it's those that take a stand that truly write history. And much like, we are currently in the fight. You are on the other side. And while your fight is not over, just a new chapter of your
It's
fight.
a new chapter of the fight, yes.
It's an inspiration to be able to see that you are still standing, that regardless of the adversary that has come against you, you decided to stand. And I believe it's very easy to take a knee. It's very easy to do things, in a way that maybe we wouldn't agree with, but it's easier for in the moment. But the Lord calls us to do something bigger than ourselves. And I just have to commend you for standing up and doing the right thing when you didn't know what the right thing was, but the Lord continued to pave the way for you.
Correct. Amen. Exactly. That is the calling. Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Jose, your story is not only a lesson in perseverance, but also a profound reminder of the power of hope. Through 5 years of unimaginable hardship, You never allowed your circumstances to define you. Instead, you found a way to stay connected to your loved ones and emerge from that experience with a message that resonates far beyond your personal journey. As we close today, I want to leave our listeners with this powerful reminder, just as you've shown us through your incredible story, Jose, that this is not how your story ends. Thank you for tuning in to the Sara MacBee Show. Take care and God bless.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, words of gallantly streaming. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.